Last week I was saying I really wanted to finish some projects off. I only had half finished stuff, so I had a couple of classes recently and I decided to finish off the class samples. So this is the Venti Tote Bag and it's by Pair String Patterns, and my class is to teach the quilt go technique in the first session and then put it all together in the second session. So this is what mine looks like. This is the inside. So I just had this half-price fabric that I just put all the way through, and it's Peltex, which makes it stand up nicely. I take out one of the pieces of Peltex on the base because it's pretty solid with just the one piece in there, and it's really hard to sew with two pieces in there. So last night I hand stitched the binding along to the bottom, and I also hand stitched the binding to the inside handles and also along the top. So that's completed now, and I'll be running that class again I think at the start of October. The other project I finished was the Blanche Farrell Bag. So this class was running until Friday. It's a 2-session class as well. And I decided to make the larger bag. So this is a swoon pattern. This is the large bag, and to give it some perspective, this is a smaller one I made in the last session. So there's a little bit of a size difference there. Not a huge one, but it's kind of, you see it a little bit more in the depth of the bag. So this one is the one I made. I made it without pockets this time as well. This one's got a little side pocket on there. The reason I did that was because I didn't want to cover the octopus fabric here. I wanted to keep the fussy cut intact. And then also if I'd put a shoulder strap on this, it would probably go through his face and it might look a bit strange without the pocket. The pocket hides the little strap connector tab. So I just left that one without a shoulder strap and without the side pockets, so it's a kind of more of a simple make. But it does still have the vinyl handles, and it's still riveted in place there as well. And I still hand sew the lining in, so that's what I did last night as well. In the pattern it says to line up the lining up with the height of the exterior so that the zipper is kind of recessed between the two layers, and then to stitch across the top stitch line that you've got on the outside again. But I don't like the idea of stitching twice over the same line of stitching. I just don't think that that is as neat as it could be. So what I tend to do is, this gets folded over a ½ inch, the lining that is. So if I fold it over a little bit more, and I make the seam allowances a little bit larger in the bag than on the exterior, it kind of fits in a little bit nicer. Still probably a little bit baggier than if you'd stitched it in by machine maybe. I'm not sure because I've not made one before, but I'm still quite happy with that result there. So that's all nice and done too. So that's my 2 projects I finished this week. This weekend I was thinking about Quilt Con as well in February. I would like to enter something again. I've never had anything in the show, but I thought I'll give it another go. So I've been drawing. I thought maybe I'll do like a lava lamp design. So I'm going to do like a blue background with crazy pieced orange fabrics in there. I'm going to have a blue solid and probably mostly solids in the orange, and then kind of have it as like a reverse applique kind of thing. But the crazy piecing is kind of my favourite way of some bits of fabric together right now, and I want to use up some scraps, so I will have some prints in there, and I know that that is probably going to be one of the reasons it doesn't get accepted. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to do was have it a different shape as well, so it kind of has a bit more of that lava lamp kind of shape. So we'll see whether I actually get around to making that in time. I decided to put something on the design wall. So this is going to be my, it's probably bigger than Queen actually, size scrappy log cabin quilt I've been working on for about 3 years. These blocks are all kind of just randomly strip pieced, so these strips are all different sizes. The sort of negative side of things, they're not just solid white, there's some creams in there, there's some little patterns in there, and then I just trimmed them all to 12.5 inches square. The top half is actually all pieced together already, and then the bottom half is all separate blocks I need to piece together. I'm not sure if I'm going to take this off the wall and maybe move on to something that's a bit more pressing, because I've got a couple of magazine projects to make, but I thought it looks pretty in here for now. So if I step backwards you can kind of see it kind of looks nice and finishes the room off having something on the wall there. So it's there for now. I'm not sure how long it'll be up there for, but it's nice to see it out of the bag. Lastly, I've finished piecing the 3rd chair. I'm kind of sat on them now. I'm still not enjoying the chalk paint and the fact that I have to kind of sand down my brush strokes, but if it needs to be done for it to look right, then that's what I'll have to do. So I've just got one more now, so I'm past the halfway point. So I've got my other pad ready, pieced that together yesterday. So once I get around to it, I'm going to take the staples out, reupholster that seat and paint the third chair, and then chalk paint can go in the garage and we can forget the whole thing. Open house at my sewing room is on October 1st, so that is the Sunday after next, and we're on Sunday now, so it's 2 weeks today, and I'll be there for most of the day probably, answering questions on new classes. So I will have the English paper piece class again, I'll have the Blanche Farrell Bag class again, I'll have the Venti Tote class again, but I'll also have 2 new classes as well, so there'll be 5 different classes this time. Probably not going to want to go more than 5 different classes for the next season. I think that's probably plenty enough for me. But I'm not going to do the Craftex wallet class again. I didn't really enjoy that one anyway. I was asked if I would do that one just so that it would help promote the products, because not a lot of people knew about it. But there hasn't been as much interest in that as my other classes, and I think that kind of reflects on why I choose things to do. So the reason I choose certain classes is because they're kind of popular at the moment and that they'll get a lot of interest, or it's something that I'm personally interested in, so I probably talk about it a bit more and that kind of thing. Now that I've got this table all clear, I think the next thing to do is going to be my banana candy quilt. I need to have that submitted by middle of October, and I actually have to post it back to the UK as well. So I need to get this big piece of fabric cut up into strips and then lay everything out and then position it in place. It might be that I choose not to cut it into strips and I just maybe do it in 2 pieces and kind of mark where I need everything to line up. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet, so I think that's why I've been putting it off a little bit. It's kind of the technical side of things, but maybe I'll get a bit of a start on that today, and then just fuse all of these in place and while they're on the tabletop, and maybe put a cloth down and press really gently, and then when I get to the ironing board I can give them a proper good press. So this is a nice big area to work on, so I can get the positioning right and just kind of tack them in place until I'm ready to press them. Hopefully I'll have something to show you on this next week. No teaching this week, but I will be at the Creative Stitches show for the Saturday, teaching like a little taster session on English paper piecing between I think 10:30 and 11:30. That's down at Spruce Meadows, so it's not very far from where I live, so that's nice and handy. So I might see you there on Saturday. If you have the programme for the show, it'll say that I'm doing a class on Friday as well, and that's not true. So if you've seen this video and you're thinking about booking on for Friday, please don't. I'm actually at work that day, and I told the organisers from the very beginning that I wouldn't be available that day. So please don't book onto that class because I won't be there. See you next week.